Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to talk about a topic that is definitely not going to make me cry. It's actually hopefully going to make me smile because it has to do with the lamb rim, and I really enjoy the lamb rim. And I have been working my way through the lamb rim for several years now. I finished the 3 volumes that were published in English, I think in 2008, maybe. And then I made a segue to Geshe Sopa's commentary, which I'm really enjoying. So I thought I would, from time to time, take a detour and just to do some BBCs on the Lamrim topics, mostly so that I can check my understanding and sort of cement what I'm learning through my review. So I chose chapter 2 because I think it's important to revisit why are the teachings so important? Why do we study them? Why do we bring them home to our heart? And the Lamrim, written by Jason Kappa, the root text for that work is Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. And Atisha wrote that text specifically to try to bring some light to the practices in Tibet, which at the time when he did it, Tibet was going through a rough time in their adherence to Buddhism. There was a lot of confusion, and some erroneous ideas and teachings had gotten hold of the land, and Atisha brought a lot of clarity at that time, and so through this work. So therefore, the teachings, the Lamrim teachings, are said to have 3 qualities, and the first one is that they're comprehensive, in that they contain both sutra and tantra, and really encompass the entirety of the Buddha's teachings. They're also easy to practice because of the way that they really explain the different topics, and the topics are organized in a way to build upon each other like rungs on a ladder. And so everything that is contained in the Lamrim is actually an instruction for practice, for meditation. And that's how it's supposed to be approached, not as an intellectual exercise, but rather as a way to really bring the teachings into our heart and practice them. And it's said to be also a superior system because it contains the teachings of Asanga and Nagarjuna. Sangha, the method side, and Nagarjuna, the wisdom side. So it brings sutra and tantra, method and wisdom together. When we spend some time with the Lamrim and we really look at it deeply, we can see that the teachings that it contains really are free of contradiction. Even though on the face of it, we might get a bit confused as to, why some teachings address an initial level practitioner, and then there are other teachings for the mid-level practitioner, and some other teachings for the great scope practitioner. In reality, all of these teachings were given by the Buddha with the sole purpose of guiding an individual from their current state all the way to full awakening. So they are a comprehensive, inclusive system which based on the capacity of the individual, and therefore is free of contradiction. Everything the Buddha taught is based on or is contained within the 4 truths of the Aryas. And so when we look at the Lamrim and analyze the topics, we have the ability to then see how those topics relate and are contained within the 4 truths of the Aryas, which then reinforces the understanding that they are non-contradictory. The different topics allow us to look at what needs to be understood, what needs to be eliminated, what needs to be realized, and then what needs to be cultivated. And these four understandings are pretty much uh, the whole spirit of the four truths of the Aryas. The Buddha taught different things at different times depending upon what was suitable for those receiving the teachings. And so when we understand that, we can see that there's no contradiction, because the end goal of all that the Buddha taught is the same, which is leading beings to the state of full awakening. Now, one of the things that I enjoyed about this particular chapter is looking about the importance of how we approach the teachings. What's our state of mind when we're listening to teachings? And in this particular chapter, the idea of the three-fourths of a pot comes in that our mind is likened to a pot where which the pot is receptive to things going into it depending upon the state of that pot. And so our mind has this quality of receptivity, but in order to determine whether or not we're truly receptive, we have to look inward to see what's the state of our mind when receiving teachings. And so there are three particular states where the receptivity is not appropriate. And so in the teaching, they talked about a pot that is upside down. So when our mind is like an upside down pot, we really don't have receptivity. There's nothing that can go in there. And so I find myself that when I am not paying attention at a teaching, when I am worried about something else that's going on at the moment and I focus on what is being said, then my mind is like an upside down pot. And I find myself on and off in that state. So this is to be avoided. And how do we avoid that? We avoid that by making a determination, as we're setting our motivation, to not get distracted, to do our very best to bring our mind back and back and back as we're listening to the teaching so that we can really increase our receptivity. Now, the second faulty state is when our mind is like a leaky pot, which is receptive. Things are going in, but things are also going out. There isn't a way to hold the teaching in the mind. I also suffer from that from time to time, more than I would like. And this happens because we don't take the time or the effort to review what we have heard after we hear it. I do that. I take notes, but then do I review the notes afterwards? No. So my mind is like a leaky pot. Everything goes out, and then I don't really derive maximum benefit of the listening, of what I've listened to, the teachings that I've listened to. So this one has an easy fix, and that is making an effort to review. Even if it is just identifying what are the 3 or 4 major ideas that came through the teaching that are easy for me to hold on to. What are those? And then it makes it easy for my mind to grab onto it and then work with those 3 major ideas, 3 or 4 major ideas. So that's a suggestion to implement. And then the last fault of the pot is a dirty pot. So we know that when we are cooking something in the kitchen, if we just took the time and trouble to cook something that is tasty and nice, and if we put that nice meal in a dirty pot, it just becomes distasteful. It doesn't, it becomes somehow corrupted. Yeah, it loses its appeal. And so likewise, if we are listening to teachings, but our mind has wrong concepts that we are holding on to very tightly, then whatever is going on at the time, the wisdom that is coming into our mind is a bit corrupted, or it's a bit tarnished by whatever wrong conceptions or ideas that we are holding on to. And so, for me, one example that I could think of was when I was trying to, or listening to teachings on purification, particularly my resistance, my initial resistance to do a purification practice. Because even though I had listened to teachings about it and practiced it, I had not really bothered to counter my inner resistance and wrong conceptions about whether or not that practice was effective. Once I did that, then the resistance to that really went away, and then I understood why those practices were important. So yeah, that's really not the entirety of chapter 2. The chapter is quite rich, but I just wanted to do a very, very brief summary. There's a beautiful also teaching here that has to do with the 5 attitudes of approaching the Dharma, and I will not go into that today, but hopefully I will do that next time, because I find that that's a very helpful, very helpful description of how to see ourselves and see the Dharma. I see the 3 jewels actually, so relating to the 3 jewels in this way, but I'll do that next time. Thank you.